Information discussed in this podcast may be sensitive in nature to some listeners. Listener discretion is advised. Hattie Brown grew up on a farm in Southern Virginia alongside her parents and 11 siblings. Hattie was the second youngest in the family. Because doing farm chores didn't interest her growing up, she spent many days in the kitchen with her mother, learning how to cook. Pretty soon, Hattie found herself as good a cook as her mom, and she enjoyed spending time in the kitchen. Hattie also had an adventurous spirit and moved out of state after she graduated high school. It wasn't long after she made the decision to join the Army. Hattie wanted to see the world. She spent 18 years doing just that. She spent years fighting in Desert Storm and being the recipient of multiple awards during her time as a soldier. After she retired, she returned to Halifax County, Virginia to be close to her family. In 2009, Hattie was excited to be part of a family member's wedding. She was taking part in planning the bridal shower, and she was looking forward to the summer's events. The shower was scheduled for May 16, 2009. The night prior, or at least in the very early morning hours of the 16th, Hattie received a phone call from her nephew. He was at a local Sheetz gas station and needed a ride. Hattie, despite the fact that it was 2 o'clock in the morning, left to go pick him up. She is seen arriving at the Sheetz gas station, and her nephew is seen leaving the store with her. Hattie dropped him off at someone's house. The next day, Hattie didn't show up for the bridal shower that she had been part of planning. Something seemed very wrong. The next day, Sunday, Hattie didn't show up for church. Hattie never missed church. Hattie had disappeared. She was officially reported missing, and the search for Hattie would begin. While her car would be discovered weeks later, Hattie was nowhere to be found. Where is Hattie Gertrude Brown? Hello, and welcome back to the Where Are They podcast and another unsolved missing persons case. The story of Hattie Brown is the story of a war hero, an Army veteran, an adventurous woman, but also a sister, a daughter, and an aunt. Hattie loved her family and did everything she could for them. Sadly, this might have been her downfall. First, I want to thank you so much for listening to Hattie's story and all of the stories of the missing persons we cover. If you have a case suggestion, please send me an email or a message over on the socials. All of those links can be found in the show notes or anytime over on our website at wherearetheypodcast.com. Okay, let's get into the story of Hattie Brown. Hattie Gertrude Brown was born September 21st, 1960. She lived with her parents and 11 of her siblings on a farm in Southern Virginia. Hattie was the second youngest of the family, and while the others were outside doing farm chores, Hattie was often inside the home helping her mother in the kitchen. Hattie graduated in 1978 and moved to Tennessee, where she would live for a couple of years. She tried trade school for a while, but eventually decided that she wanted to join the military. She wanted to travel the world. Hattie enlisted in the U.S. Army in 1980. She was a successful soldier, winning several medals and honors, and she took college courses in the evenings. Hattie was a hard worker, and had a wonderful career in the military for 18 years. With the onset of some medical issues, in 1998, Hattie retired. She immediately returned to Halifax County, Virginia, where her family still mostly resided. She wanted to be close to her siblings and her nieces and nephews, and she wanted to be around to help care for her mother. In 2009, Hattie was excited about being part of a family member's wedding, and she was eagerly planning a bridal shower to be held on May 16th. Hattie was part of the wedding party and was working hard to make it a great wedding experience. She was truly excited. The disappearance. It was late at night on May 15th, 2009, the eve of the bridal shower, actually, and Hattie had gone to bed. There was much to do the next day, and she needed to get rested. Hattie was also not a night owl, as she preferred going to bed a little bit on the early side. However, Hattie's phone rang at 2 o'clock in the morning now of May 16th. It had to be important, and Hattie answered quickly and nervously. On the other end of the line was her nephew, Derek. Derek had been having some recent troubles lately, and Hattie had been one to step in and help him. While details are scarce regarding that conversation, Derek did tell Hattie that he needed a ride home from a local Sheetz gas station and asked if she was able to come pick him up. Hattie agreed. Just after 2:30 a.m., Hattie arrived at the Sheetz. She is seen pulling into the gas station and going inside the store. Once inside, she speaks to a security guard, and soon her nephew approaches her, and then Derek and Hattie leave the store together. The conversation she had with the security guard remains a mystery to the public, although authorities have later confirmed that they do have more details about what that was about. Derek went on to say that Hattie dropped him off at a friend's house and then she left. He assumed she was heading back home. The next day, Hattie didn't show up for that bridal shower. This was exceptionally odd, as she had been the one planning it. She was excited for it, and Hattie never missed a family event. She would not have missed this shower. Family members tried to track her down, but they were unsuccessful. She wasn't at her home, and her car was also missing. And she wasn't answering her phone. Hattie also left all of her medications behind and her beloved Chihuahua. If Hattie had decided to leave and go somewhere, she would have at least taken her medications and her dog. Soon, Hattie would be officially reported as missing, and her family would be in full-blown panic mode. Hattie Gertrude Brown had disappeared. The search and investigation. The initial searches turned up nothing. Authorities took the Brown family seriously, but Hattie was an adult woman. She was an Army veteran, and she was 48 years old. She may have just gone off for a bit. Maybe she needed some time alone. But her family continued to reiterate that she would never do that, and law enforcement began a deeper investigation. First, they obtained that surveillance footage from the Sheetz gas station. They were able to confirm that Hattie drove up at 2:38 a.m. in her silver Volkswagen Jetta. She enters the store, she speaks briefly to a security guard, and then her nephew Derek approaches her and the two leave. Now, there are conflicting reports if it was verified that the two left together and which direction they went, and it was never clear if anyone else may have joined them. Derek said that his aunt dropped him off at someone's house and then she left. He presumed she was headed back home. He said he didn't talk to her again after that. Derek was almost immediately a person of interest to authorities. He had a criminal history. He had done time for burglary and assault, and he was the last person known to be with Hattie. The family has not spoken up much publicly as to what their thoughts on Derek's story are regarding Hattie. Hattie's bank records, social security number, and driver's license were all watched for any activity to which there was none. She seemed to vanish into thin air, as did her Volkswagen Jetta that she had been driving. That is, until July 2009, 2 months after Hattie disappeared, a farmer called authorities to report what he believed was something suspicious. While walking some property, he discovered a burned-out car behind an abandoned barn. There was little to nothing left to identify this car, and it would take some forensic analysis to finally determine that it was Hattie Brown's missing Volkswagen Jetta. There was no usable evidence found in or around the car, although it was determined that there were no human remains inside. Detectives believed that it had been there for some time and that whoever put it there was likely a local resident. Not many people would have been able to find this spot and would know that it was abandoned. The car was found 15 miles away from where Hattie had vanished. Agencies, including both local and state authorities, became involved in Hattie's disappearance. Law enforcement conducted dozens and dozens of interviews, and they did say that they believed not everyone was being truthful. Derek would remain a person of interest and continued to find himself in and out of trouble. Hattie's case grew cold until another tragic family occurrence took place in 2013 that once again brought the spotlight on Hattie's disappearance. On Thanksgiving in 2013, Hattie's older brother, James Oliver Brown, left home and began walking down Neal's Corner Road. From there, he simply disappeared. The Brown family was now dealing with 2 disappearances in their family, and they felt the horror of having to go through this all over again, just 4 years after Hattie had vanished. James was 61 years old, and everyone was quite worried. Authorities spent the entire holiday weekend out searching for James. There is very little known about his disappearance beyond this, but law enforcement has said that they believe the 2 cases are completely unrelated. Just a terrible and tragic coincidence that the Brown family is now dealing with another missing loved one. James Oliver Brown remains missing to this day. His disappearance did get people talking about Hattie once again, however. But despite the interviews and leads that were followed up on, Hattie has not been found. Halifax, Virginia. Halifax is located in southern Virginia and is considered a very rural area. This is the area where Hattie grew up. In fact, she graduated from Halifax High School in 1978. Halifax, as a township, has a population of just over 1,300 residents. This area of Virginia has many farms and is known for beautiful old houses, churches, and buildings. According to NeighborhoodScout.com, Halifax has a crime rating of 29, meaning it is considered safer than 29% of U.S. cities of similar size. Your chance of being the victim of a violent crime in Halifax is 1 in 275, compared to the state of Virginia, which has a 1 in 427 chance. But again, all of that means nothing to the families who have been victims of crime. Halifax also serves as the county seat for Halifax County, Virginia. The entire county as a whole has a population of around 30,000 residents. Halifax County notably sits on the banks of the Bannister River and the Bannister Lake. There are some additional lakes and rivers in the area, but it's hard to say which direction to look in. The Sheetz, where Hattie was last seen, is located at the intersection of Route 58 and Route 501. It looks like this is just south of Halifax Township. Her car was also found south of Halifax, about 15 miles south on the border of Virginia and North Carolina. If authorities have made any discoveries based on a timeline, or if they were able to track any persons of interest and their movements on the day she vanished, they have kept those details to themselves. For example, I do wonder if they were able to verify Derek's alibi or even track his movements to see if he was anywhere near the area where the car was found. Theories and possibilities. Let's start with the only one that's really talked about, the nephew. If he did have nothing to do with his aunt's disappearance, he hasn't been overwhelmingly vocal about clearing his name or his alibi, at least publicly. I do find this a little bit odd. However, Derek does have a history with law enforcement that also might make him reluctant to speak up at all. He was the last known person to see and speak to Hattie. That in and of itself will cause people to wonder. It always does. But there is also the possibility that there was maybe someone else in her life that caused her harm. Maybe someone that is even unknown to family and friends. I think it's fair to say that it is likely foul play was involved based on the way her car was found. Is it possible that she torched her own car and left behind her beloved dog? Maybe it's not impossible, but very unlikely. Could it have been a random attack by a stranger? She was out in the middle of the night, and she was known for her compassion and for helping people. Did she try and help the wrong person? Was she in the wrong place at the wrong time? What do you think happened to Hattie Gertrude Brown? What do you think happened to her brother, James Oliver Brown? Do you think these two cases are unrelated, as authorities believe? Or do you feel that is just too much of a coincidence? Hattie is described as a black female, standing 5'4" tall and weighing around 150 pounds when she was last seen in May of 2009. Hattie was 48 years old then and would today be 64. She was last seen wearing a sleeveless top and pants with side stripes. Anyone with any information on Hattie Gertrude Brown is asked to contact the Halifax County Sheriff's Office at 434-476-3334. James Oliver Brown is described as a black male, standing 6 foot tall and weighing around 200 pounds when he was last seen in Clover, Virginia. That was on Thanksgiving Day in 2013. He was 61 years old then and would today be 72. James has a large black mole on his right cheek and a birthmark on his right side near his rib cage. He had a black mustache at the time of his disappearance. He was also last seen wearing an orange or rust-colored zip-up coat, blue jeans with gold stitching on the back pockets, tan or brown lace-up work boots, a silver chain necklace, and a dark gray or black stocking cap. Anyone with any information on the whereabouts of James Oliver Brown is asked to contact the Halifax County Sheriff's Office, again at 434-476-3334. Thank you so much for tuning in to Hattie's story today. Another missing person case that has gone unsolved for far too long. Another family that has waited way too many years for answers for both Hattie and for her brother, James Oliver Brown. Someone out there has to know something. Feedback and case suggestions are always welcome. You can find all of our previous cases over on our website. You can find that at wherearetheypodcast.com, and you'll find all our contact information there as well. If you are interested in supporting the channel further and gaining access to ad-free episodes and bonus episodes, consider joining us as a subscriber or over on Patreon. Your support is so greatly appreciated, and we couldn't keep going without all of your help. If you've made it this far and appreciate the work to get these stories covered, please consider leaving us a 5-star review on your podcast platform of choice. This really does help our show reach more people. You can find the Where Are They podcast on Facebook, Instagram, and X. Please remember to give us a follow over on the socials. We do share more missing person stories over there, as well as any updates that may come in on any of the cases we've covered so far. Thank you again so much for listening to the story of Hattie Gertrude Brown. We will be back again very soon with another unsolved missing persons story. And until then, stay safe and hug your loved ones.